I will say it as a fan and nothing else. Waiting for training camp to start is torture. But the Minnesota Vikings might be busy adding pieces before the team reports to the TCO Performance Center. New general manager Nolan Teasley is reportedly scouting trade opportunities for defensive depth, specifically targeting edge Nolan Teasley along with cornerbacks Deonte Banks and Kristian Fulton. These potential acquisitions represent the exact kind of calculated risks needed to round out a roster that is already looking competitive. And honestly, the more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. Hit the like button, subscribe, and drop your name and city in the comments below. Let's get into it. The Minnesota Vikings are gearing up for training camp at TCO Performance Center, with a roster that appears largely settled. Yet, new general manager Nolan Teasley is reportedly exploring trades to bolster our depth before the month concludes. Teasley, having learned the trade under the Seattle Seahawks front office, is clearly looking to work the margins of the roster to find hidden value. We are currently evaluating 3 potential acquisitions: Atlanta Falcons edge Nolan Teasley, New York Giants cornerback Deonte Banks, and Kansas City Chiefs cornerback Kristian Fulton. These potential deals involve low-cost assets like 6th or 7th round picks or conditional trades to address lingering gaps in our secondary and pass-rushing core. While we feel confident in our starters, the depth chart remains a point of concern for many of us who have followed this team for decades. Here's what people are missing. While these names might seem like minor depth pieces, they represent a high-stakes philosophy shift in how we approach roster management. Fans are feeling a mixture of cautious optimism and nerves, as the uncertainty surrounding our secondary depth creates a genuine sense of unease during these quiet summer weeks. Watching our leadership target specific players like the 6'2", 205-pound Banks or the injured Trice shows an aggressive desire to gamble on talent rather than simply standing pat. The emotional weight of these potential moves rests on whether Brian Flores can truly maximize these players' skill sets to save a season before it even begins. However, as we look at the financials involved, specifically the massive $13 million cap hit attached to Fulton, we have to wonder if these moves are actually sustainable. Is the front office genuinely committed to these risky, low-cost gambles? Or is there a much larger, more expensive trade being discussed behind closed doors that we are not yet seeing? The most shocking reality facing our front office is that the Vikings are actively exploring trade scenarios for established cornerbacks like Deonte Banks to stabilize a secondary that remains dangerously thin. This proactive mindset stems directly from the new philosophy brought in by general manager Nolan Teasley, who is leveraging his background with the Seattle Seahawks to aggressively manipulate the roster at the margins. We have seen this specific approach yield high rewards before, as finding diamonds in the rough often differentiates championship contenders from mediocre squads. And that changes everything regarding how we should view our current defensive depth chart behind Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers. Banks, despite his physical 6'2", 205-pound frame, has struggled significantly with discipline, allowing 128 catches for 1,667 yards and 14 touchdowns, while committing 21 penalties on 197 career targets, according to Pro Football Focus. The Giants declining his 5th-year option signaled his availability, and our leadership likely believes that Brian Flores can harness that raw potential into a functional asset. Meanwhile, the potential pursuit of Kristian Fulton provides a veteran insurance policy, though his injury history and substantial $13 million cap hit create a complex situation for the books. The Chiefs would save $5 million by cutting him, so we might simply wait for a release rather than surrendering draft capital. Behind closed doors, Kevin O'Connell and his staff are undoubtedly weighing whether these low-cost flyers provide more long-term value than banking on the unproven potential of current reserves like James Pierre. It is a calculated gamble on whether our coaching can succeed where others failed, proving that even a roster that appears set in stone can be drastically improved by a few well-timed phone calls before camp officially gets underway. While our roster appears settled, the real test for any championship contender lies in how they navigate these final weeks before reporting to the TCO Performance Center. Bringing in a player like Nolan Teasley or a secondary option like Deonte Banks or Kristian Fulton is not just about filling a void. It is about securing the margins that define our success this winter. Here's the thing nobody wants to say. Relying on unproven depth in high-stakes moments often separates a winning campaign from a wasted season. By taking a calculated risk on a player like Trice, we insulate ourselves against injury at the edge rusher position, ensuring Dallas Turner and Andrew Van Ginkel can operate without being overworked. Integrating these types of veterans or high-upside talents directly impacts our salary cap, though the conditional trade terms suggested provide us with the necessary flexibility to adjust on the fly. These moves strengthen our defensive rotation just in time for critical non-conference battles and the grueling divisional schedule ahead. As we look at the NFC North, our ability to stifle passing attacks will determine if we can climb past our rivals during the season. Strengthening our cornerback room with someone like Kristian Fulton provides veteran insurance that we simply lack right now, allowing Brian Flores to scheme with more confidence in passing situations. If we can secure reliable depth while other teams remain stagnant, we improve our standing significantly in the eyes of the league. We are currently positioning ourselves to be a team that does not just compete for a playoff spot, but one that is built to sustain that intensity deep into January. By refining our roster today, we ensure that every man on the field is prepared to execute at a high level when the pressure mounts in the final quarter of the year. As we look toward the upcoming season, the possibility of General Manager Nolan Teasley working the margins to improve our roster is a development worth watching closely. The truth is, building a championship-caliber team often happens in the quiet moments before camp begins. Adding a player like Braylon Trice could offer a high upside for our edge rotation, as his 18 sacks over 3 collegiate seasons at Washington suggest he has the natural ability to thrive. However, the risk remains significant, particularly given his injury history and his absence from NFL game action. We also have to weigh the options of adding depth at cornerback. Pro Football Focus data highlights the potential to revive the career of Deonte Banks, despite his struggles with penalties and yardage allowed in New York, or bringing in Kristian Fulton as veteran insurance. While some analysts believe these low-cost moves could provide essential stability, I find the prospect of banking on players with such checkered recent health and performance records to be a bit optimistic. Trading for talent that has struggled elsewhere requires a leap of faith that might not pay immediate dividends. My honest take here is that while Teasley should certainly explore these avenues to shore up our thin depth chart, we must remain prudent. Relying on players like Fulton, who managed only 208 snaps last season due to injury, or betting on Banks to suddenly turn his physical style into consistent success under Brian Flores could be a gamble that leaves us wanting more. We need reliable production if we intend to compete in a tough conference. And sometimes the best roster move is simply trusting the internal development of the players already in our building. Let us see if these potential trade targets actually provide the value we need before we get too excited about these late summer roster adjustments. These potential trades signal a calculated shift in our franchise direction under new general manager Nolan Teasley, emphasizing that the era of relying solely on internal development is evolving into a more aggressive, opportunistic front office strategy. For those of us who have followed the purple and gold for decades, this approach should spark genuine optimism. It suggests that the organization is not content with standing still and is actively searching for hidden value to maximize our competitive window. And I cannot stress this enough. The willingness to buy low on talents like Braylon Trice, Deonte Banks, or Kristian Fulton proves that this team is committed to identifying undervalued assets that Brian Flores can help reclaim. You should feel encouraged heading into the season because it shows a proactive mindset aimed at shoring up our depth chart before the real games begin. By targeting players with high ceilings who have faced setbacks, we are essentially betting on our coaching staff to extract the best from these individuals while protecting our future draft capital. It is a smart, measured way to build a championship roster without mortgaging the long-term success of the franchise. This shift in philosophy creates a fascinating dynamic where every transaction could be the difference between a good season and a great one. Now, looking at the names we discussed, I have to ask you a direct question. If you had to pick just one player to bring into the fold to bolster our defense, would you choose the high upside gamble on Braylon Trice or the veteran insurance of Kristian Fulton? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Skol. I'll see you in the next one.